Night, Noah. Don't forget about your economics video.
3, 2, 1.
Hello, and welcome to GitHub News. We're beginning with some breaking information regarding GDP. I'm Tyler McKenna. GDP is the total value of every product by all the people and all the companies in the country. It doesn't matter if they are citizens or foreign-owned companies. If they are located within the country's boundaries, the government counts their products as GDP.
Now over to you, Tyler.
Thanks, Tyler. 5 years ago, in the fourth quarter of 2012, U.S. GDP was 15,864.1 billion. This was a 1.3% increase over the previous quarter. Additionally, imports were lower than previous years, indicating an increase in domestic production. Government spending continued to decline as it had over recent years, indicating a movement toward a more expansionary period. Now over to you, Tyler. Thanks, Tyler. The increase in real GDP in the fourth quarter was driven by increases in personal consumption expenditures, non-residential fixed investments and residential fixed investments, and a decrease in imports. Motor vehicle and computer sales were through the roof in the fourth quarter, adding to the GDP. These positive factors were offset somewhere by negative contributions from private inventory investment, federal government spending, exports, and state and local spending. Joining us now is Tyler McKenna with the weather.
Thanks, Tyler. Boston's policy for the fiscal year 2012 appears to be having been extremely expansionary. Tax exemptions were granted to single house owners at a greater rate than a previous year, and to veterans at a rate of up to 100%. Inflation is not a concern, so the government did not feel pressured to make effort to slow growth. Growth as most industries continued, albeit at a slightly lowered rate than previous years, possibly indicating that the district is nearing a peak. Federal monetary policy seemed to loosely constrict during 2012. In order to achieve a steady target rate of inflation, federal funds were reduced and federal reserves holding were shifted to motivate economic recovery and price stability. However, some expansionary actions was taken to address unemployment, which remains at less than ideal levels. Combined with the policy was fairly balanced. I'm going to turn this over to you, Tyler McKenna with sports.
Thanks, Tyler. Towards the end of 2016, the nation appeared to be approaching a peak. The rate of increase to GDP had declined from 2015 to 2016, driven by downturns in private inventory investment and non-residential fixed investment, and decelerations in PCE, in residential fixed investment, and in state and local government spending.
Ew, gross!
However, imports remained low, and government spending relatively high, possibly indicating more expansion come before reaching the peak.
Over to you, Tyler.
Thanks, Tyler! If we look towards Boston again this year, we will find that Boston was employing an expansionary fiscal policy. Due to strong employment rates and dollar value, the government was not pressured to take an active role in controlling the economy. Growth in business ranged from flat to steadily increasing depending on industry. Thanks, Tyler. Over to you, Tyler. Thanks, Tyler. The fiscal budget, the tax plan would simplify and improve tax benefits that help middle-class families afford quality childcare, pay for college, and save for retirement, as well as tax benefits that support work and keep millions of children from growing up in poverty. This would be an overall raise in taxes. It pays for these changes by reforming the system of capital gains taxation and imposing a fee on large
of the large, heavily leveraged financial firms. Back to you, Tyler.
Thanks, T. Thanks, T. If we look at our GDP now, we will notice that while it is expansionary, it is not truly moving in either direction and could be considered stagnant. Current national GDP for quarter 3 of 2017 is $19 billion, up to 5.2% from the previous quarter. These increases are likely caused by increases in personal consumption expenditures, private inventory investment, non-residential fixed investment, exports, and federal government spending. Over to you, Tyler. These increases were partly offset by negative contributions from residential fixed investment and state and local government spending. A current day look at Boston reveals that prices are going up and businesses are expanding, so Boston is still considered expansionary. In the President's budget message to Congress, he explains his intention to simplify the tax code and reduce the tax burden on American workers and businesses in order to increase economic growth. The President also plans to roll back outdated federal regulations and reduce federal spending significantly.
Thanks, Tyler. New Hampshire's GDP went up 0.8% in the time between the 2016 quarter 4 and the 2017 quarter 1. The United States national GDP went down 0.6%. More specifically, the New Hampshire per capita GDP has closely followed the national per capita GDP over the past decade. The state GDP was slightly lower than the nation's from 2006 to 2008, but rose to exceed national levels in 2009 and has remained slightly higher in all years since. NH GDP has risen by 6.01% since 2006, compared to the US GDP increase of 3.47%.
The nation seems to be approaching a peak in the business cycle. Over the past 5 years, economic growth has been on a generally decelerating trend, although most areas continue to see little change or residual steady growth. No major downturns have been observed, so it can be assumed that we have not yet reached the peak. Certain areas such as import rates and fixed interest loans have remained strong while others slowed, which could suggest that we are reasonably far from the peak. Back to you, Tyler.
Thanks, Tyler.
Thanks, Tyler.